So, we have a warfare state, and at the it's kind of not exact. Well, not exact at all, but there's elements like the Roman Empire where the military overextension and the primacy of militarism in the Roman Empire to conquer and maintain the colonies ultimately led to its own decay and degeneration. And here you have in the United States, you can't pass. I mean, here Joe Biden said yesterday, sort of heroically, he says we're going to send millions of tests to 500 million tests to Americans for COVID. This is 2 years into the epidemic, like 2 years. During that time, the U.S. has spent $2 trillion on missiles and bombs and every kind of possible warfare. They're planning on how to militarily dominate outer space while 70,000 bridges are crumbling in the United States. And that number, by the way, is from the Engineers Association that takes care of bridges. I mean, what kind of system is it where the only sense of urgency and unity is for war? Mm-hmm. Because that's the reality of America. America can, say we're wonderful, we're great, we're the best democracy. It's the citadel of democracy in Congress. No, it's a militarized warfare state where the public treasury is being looted so that capitalist corporations can make guaranteed profits from this ever-expanding defense budget. And what's it for? Well, ultimately, if it's for anything, it's for destruction. And so it's the only commodity in the world, the only commodity made in capitalist society that has actually no human use value. It may have use value according to Marx's capital and commodity production, but from the point of view of human utility, what can you do with a tank? What can you do with a missile or a bomb? I mean, these things are waste spending, and it's the dominant part of the federal budget.
I just wanted to ask Brian, because I think on a lot of these issues, it's so easy to feel, kind of hopeless and get a little nihilistic. Because it just seems like a system you can't change. Like it's this way, it's going to stay this way until the world is destroyed in the end. So everything you're saying is so important and it's also true, but then that brings us to the question of, okay, so what do we do? What do people do? Right? We're in a crisis pandemic situation right now where we're really seeing the horrible aspects of our system highlighted in a really extreme way. And that sort of like you're talking about where all the money goes to this destructive warfare state while we're left to fend for ourselves on like collapsing bridges. So what do we do about it?
That's the $64,000 question. And Rania, my intention was not to depress you.
No. I'm just thinking about.
I wanted to. But I think it is the question, the one that you're posing, actually, because, especially at moments where there aren't millions of people in the streets, the sense of despondency or, sort of hopelessness, it becomes very impactful on people's consciousness and also on their activity. If you really feel like a meteor is going to hit the earth and there's nothing you can do about it, you don't look up. And perhaps you look just for a beach to go to or something like that. But, if you think about the last 10 years, we had the Occupy movement change politics in America. It took off, and then it was suppressed. Then we had Black Lives Matter movement. It took off, and then it ebbed after a couple years. Then we had the Bernie Sanders campaign where millions of young people in the capital of anti-communism said, yeah, I'm a socialist. And you had, all of these signs of movement, and then culminating with, after the killing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, 35 million Americans, Black and white and Latino and Asian American and Arab American and indigenous people together in the streets. And that went on for a couple months. But each of these movements comes and ebbs. Mm-hmm. And when it's happening, you feel strong. And when it ebbs, you feel like, how can change happen? Right. So the question for us as the left is to take the obvious desire for social change that keeps repeating itself over and over again, as I mentioned in the last 10 years, so many indicators of it, and building a movement that doesn't simply ebb and flow. And that is the issue of organization. I mean, the bottom line is if you don't have organization, you start over again at every moment when the ebb starts again. If you have organization or organizations, because any really viable movement isn't just one group, it's got to be multiple organizations, that work hopefully together, really together, in united front together. If you have organization, then the lessons learned from the last experience become really sort of instructive for how to do things better the next time. And so I think that we should be very hopeful. And I don't consider this an expression of what might be called toxic positivity. But I do think that there is a reason, a material basis for optimism, which is we keep seeing all of these movements for change. We see in Latin America, it looks like the right is winning and then the left comes back. I mean, but our goal for us, I mean, for me as a socialist, as a revolutionary, as an activist, as an organizer, with all of you and our audience, we have to strategically come together and build a movement that doesn't just go up and down, but that endures. And in my mind, that's having an organization, having political principles, having values that we believe in, building organic communities of resistance. And I actually believe we can do it, even though at this moment, it looks, as you put it, somewhat grim. But that can end also very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Brian Becker, host of the Socialist Program, fantastic show, if I might say so myself, which you can catch on video now here on Breakthrough News. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you.